hump day. It is halfway through the week. I feel like it should be Friday, but it is not. It is not Friday. So I was just driving and I saw someone driving a Toyota Corolla, and it reminded me of my first car, which was I think it was like a 92 Toyota Corolla, and I remember being so scared. So, a little backstory to it. I didn't get my license until I was 20 years old. I was a late bloomer in like every sense of the word. And at the time I was living with my friend Marianne and her family. She had rescued me from a really shitty situation in New Hampshire. So I was living with her family, and her mom was like, listen, if you're going to stay here, we're going to do two things. You're going to go back and get your diploma, because when my boyfriend had died, I dropped out of 11th grade. And she was like, and then you're going to get your license, and I'm going to pay for you to go to like driving school and your license and stuff. And I was like, absolutely. So this was all pretty new to me. My mom didn't get her license until she was like 54 years old. She had been driving illegally that entire time. So it was scary for me to like I was always afraid of any type of authority. So when I had to do my driving test with a state trooper, I was absolutely terrified. It didn't help that my driving school teacher was his ex-wife. So that was awkward in itself, because they were arguing while I was doing my test. And then I got my license, and I was like, okay, cool, like, awesome, first try, got it. And then she was like, we're gonna get you a car now. And I was like, what? And she's like, I'm gonna co-sign a car for you. Oh, Jesus Christ. She's like, I'm gonna co-sign a car for you. And I was like, okay. So we went into the bank, and I remember being so scared being inside a bank, because it wasn't something I was familiar with, and like going in to ask for money, I had such like anxiety about it. But I ended up getting approved because she had great credit, I had none. So I got my license, got my car, and I freaking loved that thing. It was a piece of shit. It was like $1,500, I think. Had like 90,000 miles on it. It was just like, it was a piece of shit. But it ran, and I had the freedom of being able to drive and pick up and go whenever I wanted to, and I loved it. And I used to drive, like I ended up going to college. She paid for my first year of college. Like, this lady was amazing. She was a school teacher, and she was just an amazing human. And so I went to college, for psychology, and I used to love driving around, just to like, which I still enjoy doing. Like most weekends I'll just go for a ride, just to like get out of the house, listen to music, drink coffee, just be alone for a bit. And I've always been that way. And I remember my first CD that I had bought for that car was the band Brand New, and who was the other one? Taking Back Sunday. So those were like the first CDs that I had bought for that car, and I played them out. I was a super pothead back then, so I used to drive around, smoke weed, enjoy life. Now it's legal. Back then it was like, I talked about being paranoid after smoking weed. Oh my God, driving around, I would think like every cop would just magically know that I was high. It was pretty interesting that I did it to myself. Like, I didn't have to drive. Like, I could have just smoked weed and then went back home. But I like driving around and listening to music, and it was like if I was in my car with the windows up, no one could bother me. No one would hear me singing the wrong words, whatever. But Jimmy Eat World was on before I started recording, and I was like, man, those were like crazy times, like listening to that type of music back then. I still listen to it all, but just the memories that can come through with like a song, and it like teleports you right back to that moment of, you know, me being in that little Toyota, driving all through Acushnet and Fairhaven down in Mass, and just enjoying like the simplest thing, but something that people take for granted, which is being able to drive and having your own vehicle. And, you know, I've been talking to my son because he wants to get a job and he wants to start, you know, the driving classes or whatever. And I keep telling him, like, you have to wear your glasses. Like, this kid refuses to wear glasses at school. He cannot see for shit. He was telling me just this morning, like, oh, when the teacher writes notes on the board, like, I can't see them, so I don't write them down, so I wait till he posts them. I'm like, dude, not every teacher is going to post the notes. Like, you have to be able to see. So when I told him that he would need glasses to drive because they do an eye exam, he was like, what? Are you kidding? I'm like, no, you have to be able to see to drive. Are you kidding right now? You didn't think that was a thing? Like, good God. Ugh. So, you know, he wants to drive and wants to do the things that, you know, at his age he should be doing, like getting a job. But it, like, scares me, the idea of him driving, because when they were little, they had one of those little Jeeps, the little motorized Jeeps, and he would have his little brother drive him around the yard because he would just smash into everything because he just didn't pay attention. So I'm like, oh God, he's gonna start driving soon. And as a mother, you know, it's terrifying to let them go out into the world and, you know, to trust the people that he's with, that they're gonna, you know, do the right thing, and he's gonna do the right thing and not follow, you know, what other people are doing and that type of stuff. So it's really scary. And I think back and I'm like, you know, my mom was like a worrywart. A very old school term, I know. She was like always, like, she had her moments where she always wanted to know, like, where we were, who we were with, what we were doing. But there was a certain point when she started dating her husband that she was a bit more hands-off. So, like, she didn't have to worry about when I got my license. I was so much older, and at the time she was, like, you know, doing the drug thing. So she wasn't really focused on me and, like, me driving and getting out into the world, going to college. Like, it wasn't really on our radar. So, like, I'm dealing with my son going through that now, and it's not something that I have anyone that can relate to it, like, as a mother, how it feels to let your child, like, go out into the world. But yeah, it's just one of those things, and I think about all the dumb stuff that we did that we just didn't get caught, you know. Or like the time that I came up to Rhode Island to go to this bar with my friend. I had a fake ID, and sadly the girl looked just like me. I was like, well, that's unfortunate. But she I came up here with my friend Katie, and it happened to be my boyfriend that died. It was his sister. We came up here, she got super slammer faced, like, oh my, like, she definitely took drugs, and she was just like, could not drive at all. And we were probably like 2 minutes away from the highway, but because I had no idea where I was, and she was like, you have to drive, I'm fucked up, like, I can't drive. I was like, okay, all right, I'll drive. Mind you, at the time, I didn't have a license yet, so I was even more terrified because we had been drinking. So we were 2 minutes away from the highway. All I had to do was go down the road, take a left, and then take a right to get on the highway. I drove around for 2.5 hours trying to figure out where the highway was. This was before, like, cell phones, MapQuest even. Like, I don't even think that was a thing back then. I'm not sure. honestly. Maybe it was. I don't know. But I didn't have any of that. So I was driving and driving for over 2 hours trying to find the highway. Finally, she woke up a little bit and she was like, oh, you have to go down this way. Went down that way. She's like, turn here, turn there. So she knew exactly where we were, but she was so out of it that she couldn't even guide. She didn't even know what was going on. Pretty sure she was on X. So, you know, all those little things where I'm like, I can't believe I did that. Other times that I definitely drove when I shouldn't have. And considering that's how my boyfriend died, it was his 21st birthday. We were all out having a good time. And he had a Mustang that he absolutely loved. This thing was like hardcore. It was awesome. And he didn't want to leave it at the bar. So his friend was like, hey, I'll drive it. I haven't drank as much. So he's like, okay. So I get in the car with that kid's girlfriend, and my boyfriend and his friend start driving in the Mustang. So we're in front of him, and I'm turning around like waving and stuff. And he's like, you know, blowing kisses or whatever. And then I turn back around, I sat down, and like 30 seconds, we hear like a noise. And she looks and she's like, hey, they're not behind us. And I was like, what? So we turned around, we went back, and basically they spun out. It was like a damp night. And his friend, you know, was driving a little too fast, and they ended up spinning out and going right through a wrought iron fence. And my boyfriend was pretty much dead at the scene. They said they were breathing for him, but everything internally was crushed. He had a seatbelt on. Still killed him. He didn't have a bruise or a cut on him. It was all internal. Basically, the impact, the seatbelt crushed everything inside of him. So considering that's how he passed away, and obviously I knew better even before then, but there were times I definitely drove where I shouldn't have drove, and I had angels sitting on my shoulders on those days, and it's not something I do anymore, because again, we take for granted the things that we do every day, we need every day. In one instant, your whole life can just change dramatically from one bad decision. And that's what I try and teach my kids, you know what I mean? Like, you have the luxury of having so many different things, and you'll have the luxury of having your license and having a car. So like, don't screw it up, you know? Like, be careful, pay attention. I told him he's not allowed to ride in cars with other people. Not for a long time anyway. Or like, you know, while he's still in my house. I don't want kids like giving him rides anywhere or whatever. That's why I would like him to drive, so he doesn't have to depend on other people, and he can always pick up and go if he's in a situation that he's not comfortable in, or he's somewhere that he just doesn't want to be. So I do want him to have that freedom, and, you know, I have to let him into the world at some point, but it's just like terrifying in its own way to, you know, let him go out there. But yeah, that was just a song, kind of brought all that up. And yeah, so today I have a today I have a busy afternoon. I have 3 back-to-back meetings. My son is not going to the gym today, which means hopefully he's not going to his girlfriend's either, and I don't have to drive around this afternoon and tonight. So he has a girlfriend that's relatively a new thing. This is his first girlfriend. He's had friends that were girls or whatever. But he has a best friend that lives in, I want to say it's like Ohio or something. They met on TikTok. They FaceTime all the time. She's a very pretty girl. And he's like, she's my best friend. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then the moment he said that her parents were going to fly her to Rhode Island to spend time with him, I was like, that's kind of crazy, like, for, you know, her parents to do that. But also, is it more than just a friend? Like, what is going on right now? So, come to find out, in the past, she has made comments to him about his other friend, like a girlfriend, that he's had since, I don't know, like 6th grade, probably. I'm not a fan of her at all. She is a follower. She's an instigator. Just not a fan of her. But he's been friends with her since 6th grade. So I guess his best friend in Ohio was like, oh, that girl's ugly, I don't like her. And he was like, what is your problem? So I didn't know this up until last night, but she also made comments about his girlfriend, which he has not told her it's his girlfriend yet. And so his friend from Ohio was like, oh, that girl's ugly that you went to prom with and whatever. And I'm like, Brendan, she likes you. And he's like, I've wondered that before. I'm like, dude, she definitely likes you. She's jealous of every girl that you interact with. And she's flying out here. I think she's like thinking you guys are in some type of like a long distance relationship and she's going to come visit you. And he's like, oh, like sometimes this kid, man, I'm like, dude, really? You didn't see this? So, so she's supposed to be flying out. It has changed so many times. I think it's the week of 4th of July, which initially I had taken the week off anyway, but now I'll be on leave, medical leave. So I was like, I can bring you guys like around, whatever. I said, but you have to know your little brother is going to be around too. Like, I'm not going to leave him home to take you and your friend out to do fun stuff and leave your brother at home. So be prepared for that. So now he's like, I don't even care if she comes. I'm like, well, maybe you should share that with her. He's like, well, they already got the tickets. I said, so then you need to have a conversation with her and be honest with her, because most girls, unless they are incredibly confident and secure with themselves, are not going to be a fan of you only having female friends that you hang out with. I said, you have to understand where she's coming from. If she likes you and you guys have this super close relationship that you don't have with anyone else, she's been assuming it's something more. And yeah, we never want to assume, but she's a 16-year-old girl. And that's the other, or 17. He has these girls, the one that he's dating and like his friend, they're older than him. I'm like, how are you pulling these like 17-year-old chicks? Anyway, so I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I don't know if she's still going to come. She was calling him last night and like crying and stuff. And he was like, what's wrong? And she kept like hanging up. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. And then she told him like she was mad at her dad. So I'm like, listen, this is what it's like to have a girlfriend and have female friends. Not everyone is always going to get along. I said, and as far as having a best friend that's a female, anyone that you date, you have to make sure that they know that it is strictly friends. If now you know that she likes you more than a friend, you have to set the ground rules with her and be like, look, I have a girlfriend. I'm happy to continue being friends, but like, that's all it's going to be. I don't appreciate you talking crap about my girlfriend, saying she's ugly, because she's not ugly. She is adorable. And I told him, you have to have these conversations, as uncomfortable as it might be. And he's just like, well, I won't be friends with her. I said, but that's not fair either, because maybe if you're honest with her and set the tone, she can eventually be okay with you guys just being friends. You get along so well, like, try and make it work. If it's not going to work, then it's not going to work. But don't just throw it aside because now you have a girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's wild. Having 2 boys, I was always like, I want boys because boys are easier. Girls have attitudes really early on. Their personality is very strong from the beginning. Boys just seem more mellow, in which they are. Like, I'm so happy I have boys. My kids are awesome. But now I didn't think of this whole teenager part where they're gonna start dating, and like, God forbid, I don't like the girls that they date, you know, I'm gonna have to just kind of sit and deal with it. And it's not going to be easy, because as a parent, you want the very best for your child. You want someone that treats them, you know, how they deserve, you know, and not everyone is like that, and heartbreak is going to happen. It's bound to happen. It happens to all of us. And so I am like, I didn't plan for this. Like, I wasn't ready yet. I thought I had more time. Like, you know, maybe when he was 18, he had a job and a car, and he was like, hey, I got my first girlfriend, I'm getting my first apartment. Then I'd be like, okay. But now it's like, he's younger and he's still in my house, and I'm like, and he goes to hang at her house. He won't dare bring her to my house for whatever reason. Like, I wouldn't care if he brought her, but he's just very weird with bringing people over to the house. I don't know why. But yeah, should be interesting how this plays out. He's probably talked to her throughout the day today, so we shall see. Also, there are bugs all over my car. I don't know what it is with this parking lot. It's like super annoying. But anyway, I hope you all are having a great day. I might jump on again after, but we'll see. Hope you're all being safe. Happy hump day, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.